Hi, I'm Dana, and today I wanted to make another video about autism and gender and some of the things surrounding that, because quite a while ago, at the sort of start of me trying to learn more about being autistic and figure myself out, I came across the term autigender, and I immediately just really massively related and was like, oh my god, something I get, something that gets me, something that condenses a vast experience into just one word, just a really easy explanation. But it feels like no one else really got onto it like I did. And not no one else, but like a lot of the people that I've spoken to about gender, and like, bear in mind, these are just like little conversations between friends. I'm not having any serious discussions here, but it's one of those things that most people just have not heard of, even within the autistic community, or at least in my experience they haven't. So it's something I do want to talk about more and sort of bring more into like the conversation, as well as it being something that like I really deeply relate to. And so I'm going to get into what it is first, and then go into some of like my experience and thoughts and opinions and how I feel about gender as an autistic person, I suppose. So when you Google it, I'm reading off my computer now, sorry. Autigender identifies that an autistic person thinks about and relates to their gender label or lack of gender label in the context of autism. So when I've made content like this in the past, a lot of people have jumped to the comments to tell me you're just non-binary, and you're not necessarily wrong, and we're going to get to that later, but it's not the same, because my understanding of gender is like clouded by being autistic. A lot of sort of the gender presentation and gender expression and other things to do with actually connecting to the gender that you are doesn't work for me as an autistic person. It just doesn't connect in the same way, and it's one of those things where, because I don't understand it, I find it really hard to explain how I don't understand it, because I look around and everyone else seems to sort of like fit into their little boxes, and I'm like, I don't even know which box I'm supposed to begin trying to fit into, never mind actually fitting into it. And as much as I'm sure that applies to a lot of people that fall under various like trans or generally like not cis umbrellas, it's not the same, because my judgment of things, my perception of things, my ability to understand things is all affected by the fact that I'm an autistic person. So as much as like autigender I do think falls under sort of like the non-binary umbrella, I also don't feel like I am a non-binary person. But I don't want to start with that, because as someone who's been like having these thoughts and been trying to figure myself out, I have, as a lot of us do, reflected a lot on my childhood, and it's been an experience, because in my very early childhood I was a very like pink princess Bratz Barbie obsessed little girl. But I do also sort of wonder if that was more so masking than anything, if my masking just began at a very early age and went in that direction of things, mixed with it being sort of just pushed on me, as it is for anyone that's AFAB. You just sort of are born and then everyone's like, here's a Barbie doll. It's just sort of the expected thing. You get given the princess dresses and whatever else. And not to be like really dramatic, but I had the thing of like my life changed as an 8-year-old, because I got really into Lord of the Rings and Doctor Who, and they were obviously much more like male focused demographic things. So the people around me, like the adults around me, were like, oh, Dana's not like a pretty princess anymore, Dana's a tomboy. And that was my first real experience of like my gender being perceived by others. Like, I'd never thought about it before. When I was picking clothes, I was picking them because I liked the way they looked and felt on my body and whatever else. So it was very natural to me that like I tried to dress like Barbie because I loved Barbie. Getting into Doctor Who and Lord of the Rings, I started like stealing my brother's clothes and trying to dress like more the way the characters that I saw were. And obviously that's largely like autism special interest, trying to engage in that. But I think it was also a thing of like, I just have such a loose concept and understanding of gender and the way that it presents and the way it's meant to be displayed and everything else around that, that it just didn't occur to me that it wasn't normal for me to wear boys' clothes as well as girls' clothes. And I still don't really get it, And it was very much when I got into like high school and started having people being like, why are you wearing boys' clothes? Why are you wearing that? And I was like, oh, like clothes aren't just for everybody. My perception before that was that they're like made a little bit differently to fit the slightly different body shapes, but if it fits on your body, then you may as well just wear it, I hadn't really seen the fact that things were gendered based on the fact that like it's supposed to be that you fit into one or the other, and not just that like I saw it purely for the logical reason of like things fit better. I didn't see it as like a gendered thing. I just thought it's like, we have different bodies, so that fits yours better and this will probably fit mine better, but if it doesn't, I can just wear that, But I really didn't like being called a tomboy because I was like, I'm not a boy though, you know? And that's again where I think autism really plays in for me. And I want to stress that this is just my experience, because this is something that I brought up in another video that someone left like a mighty long comment about. And like, I don't even know what they were trying to say, to be honest with you. But it was the thing of like, for me as an autistic person, the logical thing in my brain is that I am a woman, I am a girl. That's just, you know, as much as like I state and really emphasize that this is just me and my experience, because I obviously wouldn't look at trans men and be like, well, but for me it's just logical and factual that I am a woman and a girl and whatever else you want to use to do the term female. So it never bothered me to be called a girl, but as I've gotten older, woman, lady, girl, any of it, I am sort of like, I don't know how much that actually fits me, but also I don't get annoyed about it or angry or anything, because I'm like, well, that's the fact, you know. I look like a woman, I dress in a lot of like women's clothing, like it's a pretty even mix, to be fair, but you know, like I can see all of the things that would make someone's perception of me be that I'm a girl, so it just doesn't bother me, because I'm like, I see the logic in it, I get where you're coming from. And for a very, very long time, that was also just how my brain was. I was like, I look in the mirror and I see a woman, you know, I see pictures of myself and I'm like, yeah, I'm a girl. It's so whatever, because it's just that I know that societally that is the box that I'm supposed to fit in. I'm just, it doesn't bother me, you know. It's just like, yeah, okay, I'll stand in this box, it's whatever. But I do think that also again comes down to the fact that I don't have that much of a grip or a concept of gender and all the stuff that goes with it anyway, so why would I be bothered by something that's just flying completely over my head anyway? And when I've made this type of content in the past, people have been real quick to tell me that I'm non-binary, which is a little weird to me. I feel like we should let people tell us what their gender is and not tell them what it is. I'm not asking you to tell me what it is, I am telling you that I relate most to auti gender in this content, you know? But as I've gotten older, it's very much the way that other people perceive me that bother me. You know, like I spent a good while being like, I don't experience any sort of like body dysmorphia. I don't feel like I need to like change anything about myself to be more androgynous or whatever else. So I don't feel like I do fit into the non-binary category. And obviously a good amount of that is me being quite ignorant and not being very educated and thinking that I like needed to want to be androgynous and whatever else in order to be non-binary, which isn't the case. But it very much sort of just feels like another box that I can stand in, I don't mind it, but it's not necessarily my box, you know? But I think it's the thing of like, I didn't mind being a girl, I didn't mind being like a young lady, but the perception of people when you get older, and especially like as someone who, you know, I used to weigh a lot more than I do and I dropped the weight, and suddenly people started acting like I'm really pretty and really attractive, and other people's perception of me as a woman and the way that they then treat women is what really gets me, you know. And that's why I'm not sure how much I really fall into the non-binary thing, because if I was just left to my own devices and people weren't perceiving me and weren't treating me any specific way based on gender, I don't think I'd think about it at all, you know. I think it'd be a complete non-issue and I'd just be like doing things and living my life and wearing the clothes I want, and it wouldn't be a thought. But it's the way that sometimes I want to wear a dress, and then the way that I'm treated out in the world while wearing a dress is just a little bit different, and sometimes very different, quite frankly. You know, there's been times where it's like the one time I wear this cute outfit out and suddenly there's this like weird creepy guy sitting next to me on the bus touching my thigh or whatever else. And I think it also ties into that, because I don't love when spaces are like non-binary and women friendly or vice versa. You know, I think it's really quite strange how often non-binary people are just sort of lodged in with women, but I also kind of get it, because women are often like the safer option in society, obviously. And it's also the thing of like, as someone who like is increasingly like, I definitely fall under the non-binary umbrella somewhere, I still feel a lot of connection to like womanhood and the things women go through, because I've been treated as a woman, so I've experienced those things alongside them. And as much as I might be like, I don't think I am a woman actually, I've still been treated as one, and I've still experienced the things that other women have experienced, which means that automatically we have more in common and we've had more similarly shared experiences. And like I say, I have no desire to like look more androgynous or whatever currently. I might do in the future, I don't know, but right now I'm quite pleased with how I look, to be honest with you. I don't want to change anything, which does mean that I will continue to be like perceived and treated as a woman. And it's one of those things where it doesn't bother me amongst friends. Like I asked I didn't really ask. I let my friends know a little while ago that I like using they them pronouns. I prefer being referred to as that. But obviously, like, it was a new thing, so some of my friends occasionally slipped up and like technically misgendered me, I guess. But it's also the thing of like, that's what I prefer and that's what I like most. But I also know that my friends and the people that like they're friends with in connection that I know aren't like, they're not perceiving me as a gender, they're not perceiving me in a certain way. Like, they know me and they like, for the most part, I would say they understand me. So if they slip up and like use she her pronouns or refer to me as a girl or whatever else, it doesn't feel the same, you know, like coming from other queer people who are predominantly non-binary, it just doesn't feel the same because it's not the same perception of womanhood being like thrust upon me. But I like specifically brought up wanting to use they them pronouns because I'd been on a theatre trip with my friend and like they use a wheelchair, so we had to go up the back entrance in a chairlift. It was horrible. But the people, like the staff, were referring to the both of us with she her pronouns, and that was where I was like, I'm having this perception of being a girl and a woman and using she her pronouns just like thrust at me, and it feels really weird and it feels really odd because they don't know me and they don't have a perception of who I am and what's going on, and it feels very odd to have those pronouns used and to be perceived in this way. And like, there's no anger. Like, I'm not mad about it. I get, like I've said, I get why logically you would look at me and use she, her pronouns. It doesn't necessarily like bother me. It was just kind of uncomfortable, and I'm not comfortable with being perceived anyway, so I'm not saying that it doesn't just tie into that, to be completely honest with you. Like, that's why I don't want to like declare that I am non-binary, because I'm really taking things in and trying to figure things out, and I'm not really quite 100% sure on where I stand yet. But right after that, I cosplayed Nadia for Comic-Con, and I had this whole like weird meltdown thing when I got home because it felt so weird to be dressed as a woman. That was the thing, is like being dressed as a vampire, being dressed as this character. I love being in a costume. All of those things were fine. The fact that that costume was that of a woman, I'd spent the day dressed up as a woman, and I realised that I'd had this like mask fall on. Like, I didn't mean to mask that day, and you know, I didn't have to mask a lot because I'm at Comic-Con. I'm surrounded by other people that are very similar to me, but it was still this very unintended, unintentional mask of, I'm a woman now. And that was where I was like, you know, I don't think I am a woman because I don't think I would feel so strange to be dressed as one. And then that forced me to like reflect on other situations. Like, there was a party that I went to where I wore like a cute little black dress and like some, you know, I was very feminine. Yeah. And I spent like, once I'd had a couple of drinks, I spent like the whole night telling people like, I don't usually look like this, I don't usually dress like this. And it was because I very much felt like I'd put some sort of like costume on to pretend to be a girl for the night. Like, it just, as much as it was fun and I enjoyed the outfit and I was like, I look good and I feel good, it also just didn't, I don't want to say it didn't feel like me, because like I liked the dress and I wanted to wear that outfit, but it was the fact that I knew by putting that on I was going to be perceived as like a feminine woman, and I was like, I'm not. Like, I'm cosplaying a woman right now. Like, even though it's my own dress and I'm dressed as myself, I felt more like I was cosplaying in that moment than I did when I was actually cosplaying at Comic-Con, because it was just like, I'm so pretending to be a woman right now, and I need everyone to know that like, this is not what I usually look like. I'm not normally like girl, you know? And finally, after that whole ramble, as an autistic person, I'm also very aware that I can get quite caught up in things. I can be quite naive, I can be quite easily led along, and with the whole like rhetoric, the whole like thing going on the sides of political boundaries that I don't really cross if I can help it, there is obviously the whole thing of like blue hair and brown hounds, these snowflakes want to be this, and like all of that absolute bollocks that I absolutely don't agree with, but it does still like worm your way into my mind. And it really made me think, like, I'm someone who has a lot of non-binary friends. Am I trying to just follow the crowd? Am I just trying to fit in by being different because I'm with the people that are already different? Like, you know, I had all these thoughts of like, am I faking it? Am I just going along with the crowd? Am I just trying to be special? And I came to the very solid no, because it's a fact of like, I don't care, you know, like I don't feel like you can misgender me, because I'm just like, I don't care what pronoun someone's using. I prefer they them, that's definitely my favourite, that's the thing that makes me be like, oh yeah, that fits, that feels nice. But I also don't really care that much, you know? And you know, like obviously like the first video I made about this was from like 2 years ago, and I did not have the friends that I have now then, so like it's quite validating and comforting for me to be able to look back and be like, oh no, this is something that I began thinking about and reflecting on and wondering about way before I had any sort of like influence in my life, you know, like I haven't just bought into the next craze. This has been something that's been on my mind for a long time, that I've like taken my time to think about and figure out and unpack and deal with. And obviously I haven't entirely unpacked and dealt with it, because I'm still reluctant to say that I'm non-binary or that I fall under that umbrella or that I fall under like the trans umbrella at all. I mean, not at all, because I think that from what I've seen online, Autigender is being considered as like falling under the trans umbrella, but that is by far the thing that I relate most to over like being non-binary or any of that. And again, just at the end here, please don't just comment, be it like with a list of reasons that I'm actually non-binary or whatever else. Like I say, I'm not like opposed to the idea, but it's also so intertwined with being autistic for me that I don't think, like, it just doesn't feel like the correct label, whereas Autigender does. But obviously Autigender's a bit more confusing, at least for me. Like, as someone who doesn't get gender, I find it very difficult to explain. I really hope that I have helped you to like understand some degree of it at the start of this video, but honestly you can Google it if you don't. But I would like it to be like sort of a more known term in the circles where people will actually ask about this kind of thing and talk about this kind of thing, you know? But that is more than enough talking for me today. So you can follow me here, subscribe to me if you want to see videos from me 3 times a week on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays. You can also follow me over on TikTok where I post daily, and I sometimes occasionally post over on Instagram and Twitter, like every now and again. It's not very often, but like it's good content when I do. It is on Instagram. On Twitter it's mostly just reposting TV show stuff. But if you want to donate to me monetarily, you can also do that over on Ko-fi or by becoming a Patreon member. I have YouTube memberships too, but honestly I think YouTube steals the money. Like sometimes y'all have given me like £20 supers and stuff, and like I don't think I see that money. I think YouTube completely absorbs and steals it, to be honest with you. So if you wanted to donate, please do it over on Ko-fi or Patreon, because YouTube, I don't want, it feels like I'm really speaking bad about like someone close to me by saying like that, but I YouTube sucks, okay? I'm sorry. This video isn't hitting the algorithm, is it? But yeah, you can do all of that. Follow me in other places if you want to see more of me, or you can just click off this video and never have to see my face again. I don't really know why you would have watched this far if that's your option. But whoever you are and wherever you are, if you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I'll see you again in a couple of days.